Hi, my name is Ronnie MacDonald, and I'm delighted to be able to read to you today 2 chapters of my book, Zeepa the Wichagong. We're going to read chapter 6 and chapter 7. They're short chapters. The story so far is that Tom Stone, our hero, is an 11-year-old boy, schoolboy. He's a good lad, but he's been bullied at school by 2 lads called Hamish and Andrew. And Hamish and Andrew made Tom on a Saturday go rabbit hunting. Now, Tom didn't really want to do this. He loved animals. And the way that Andrew and Hamish made him do it was that they were to block up the holes, the rabbit holes of a rabbit warren where the rabbits live. And they lit a fire to put smoke into the holes so the rabbits could only escape through one open hole. And that's where a cage was intended to catch the rabbits. Tom protested. He didn't want this to happen, but the 2 bullies were bigger than him and they made him do it. But Tom was absolutely delighted when he saw that just when the rabbits could have gone into the cage, he saw that the boulders that was blocking one of the holes had been pushed away and the rabbits all escaped. So Tom was delighted. But just at that moment, there was a thump inside the cage. And they looked to see what they had caught. They were sure it was a rabbit that didn't manage to escape. But when they looked inside the cage, there was a very strange creature. It was about 10 inches tall. It was bright red. It had 2 arms and 2 legs with long claws at the end of each foot or each hand. It had green, it looked like clothes, trousers and a smock top, and it had long, tufted ears. That creature, they didn't know what it was. The 2 bullies got very excited because they were talking about selling the creature. They thought they had caught a goblin. But the creature escaped, and Tom went home, and he went to bed that night. Obviously very tired, but relieved that the rabbits had escaped. And this is where we take up our story. As he got home, he went to bed and he fell fast asleep. During the night, however, he heard a tapping at his window. Tap, tap, tap. Tom turned over on his side. He was still asleep. Tap, tap. He was aware of a noise. Was it in his dream? Tap, tap. His eyes flickered open. Tap, tap. The noise was coming from his window. Tap, tap. Tom got out of bed and pulled back his curtains. At first he saw nothing unusual. Then he heard the noise again. Tap, tap, tap. His eyes focused on the bottom corner of the window where the sound was coming from. He stared at that part of the glass, and then he saw it. From the edge of the windowsill, a finger with a long nail came into sight and tapped 3 times on the glass, then disappeared around the edge of the window again. Tom's heart started racing. He was surely dreaming. The finger and nail looked exactly like the finger of the creature they had caught in the cage. He kept looking at the bottom corner of the glass, and sure enough, the finger came back into view. It tapped 3 times on the glass, then disappeared once more. Tom rubbed his eyes and looked across at his bed, half expecting to see himself fast asleep. This was surely a dream, right? Tap, tap, tap. Tom turned round again just in time to see the finger and long nail disappearing once again from his view. Plucking up the courage, Tom took a deep breath and pulled open the window. He waited. Nothing happened. So slowly and carefully, he started to poke his head out of the window, looking down to the right side of the sill where the finger had appeared from. Tom felt his heart miss a beat. He took in a sharp breath of air and heard his heart beat loudly in his ears, for there, sitting at the very edge of the window, was a creature that looked exactly like the one he had seen today in the cage, except this one was green, not red. The creature sat still with its bright blue eyes gazing and staring straight at Tom. They looked at each other for what seemed to Tom to be a full minute before the creature stood up onto its 2 feet and walked slowly across the windowsill towards the open window. Tom thought of slamming the window shut, but for some reason he felt he didn't want to do this, that somehow this would be very much the wrong thing to do. The animal stretched up to its full 10 inches from head to toe, and then it reached up with its arms and hooked its strange fingers around the window ledge. It then easily climbed in through the open window and sat down on the sill inside Tom's bedroom. Tom stared at it. His heart was still beating fast. Tom examined it closely. Yes, it looked exactly like the one he had seen this morning in the cage. 2 arms, 2 legs, blue eyes, an intelligent-looking face, biggish ears, all covered in fur. Only this time the fur was an olive green, almost the same colour as its smock top, shirt and trousers. The thing looked directly at Tom. It opened its mouth as if to speak, but then it closed its mouth again. Then, to Tom's utter disbelief, it opened its mouth once again and said in a musical, lyrical tone, "Thank you for trying to save the rabbits today, and for trying to save me." Tom was stunned. "You can speak," he said. "Yes," said the creature. "We have been around people for as long as they have been on the planet. We can hear what you say, and we have learned your language and your ways. I was taught how to speak English at school." Its voice sounded like a stream gurgling down through the rocks, or like a tree's leaves blowing in the wind. It was very hard to describe. Tom could clearly understand what the thing was saying, but its voice sounded like being outdoors and listening to the noises of the countryside. It was very soothing to listen to. Tom was now loving this dream, because a dream it must be. Surely his best dream ever, he thought. If you don't mind me asking," said Tom, what are you?" The thing smiled. It actually smiled like a person would. "I'm a Wichagong," it said. A Wichagong?" said Tom. "What is a Wichagong? I've never heard of a Wichagong before." "We are a species as old as the mountains. We live on this planet that we share with you, and we've been here much longer than humans. But sadly, there are not many of us left anymore. As humankind has thrived, we have diminished in numbers, but there are still pockets of us in a few places in the world." "If Wichagongs have been on the planet for longer than us, how don't I know about you?" asked Tom. "Not Wichagongs," said the Wichagong. "We refer to ourselves as the Wichagong, for a single one of us, or for all of us together. I am a Wichagong, and collectively we are the Wichagong. And the reasons that you have never heard of us is because we easily hide from humans, and have done so for thousands of years. You're not difficult to hide from. You are quite big, you're noisy, you're clumsy, and actually you're quite smelly. We are small and agile with a great sense of hearing and smell. We have never been seen by humans, not ever. That is, until today." "So," said Tom, "no human has ever seen a Wichagong before, and I have now seen 2 in one day," said Tom. "No human has ever seen a Wichagong before today, that's true. But you have only seen 1 Wichagong, not 2. I am the Wichagong you caught in the cage today." But your fur is green. The one in the cage had red fur," said Tom. "Our fur, as you call it, is unique in the animal kingdom. Its colour reflects our emotions. When it is red, we are frightened or angry or excited. Today I was all 3, that's why my fur was bright red. If I had been only slightly excited, it would have been a duller shade of red. Normally our fur is the colour you see now, green like the undergrowth. This helps us disguise and hide. When we're sad or feeling depressed, our fur develops a grey colour. So Tom, I am the only Wichagong you have ever seen. I am the only Wichagong anyone has ever seen. You called me Tom, said Tom. You know my name? Yes. I heard them call you Tom today. I also heard them call you Poor Boy. But that is not your name, I don't think. No. They call me Poor Boy to upset me, said Tom. I could tell they were not your friends, Tom. They were the worst type of people. You are amongst the best. Do you have a name? Asked Tom. The Wichagong made a sound, and Tom asked it to say it again. It sounded like Zeepa. Not exactly, but if you were to spell it in English, it would be close to this. Zeepa, asked Tom. If the Wichagong have never been seen by humans for thousands of years, I'm really, really sorry we managed to catch you in our cage today. Zeepa smiled. Then he started chuckling. And the way he made this sound reminded Tom even more like a stream tumbling over pebbles. Tom, do not worry yourself. You only caught me today because I chose to be caught. Zeepa took a long breath, paused, looked reflective and spoke again. There is a thing very important to the Wichagong, and we call it the Zonga. Again, when he spoke this word, it was speaking in its own language, not English, and like its name Zeepa, the spelling Zonga was only a close approximation to the sound. In fact, the Zonga is everything to us. It is more important than life itself. Without the Zonga, there is nothing. It is with the help of the Zonga that we have never been detected by humans. What's the Zonga? Asked Tom, as he tried to get his tongue around this strange-sounding word. Well, it is best described as the collective pulse, or the heartbeat of all living things on the planet. I think humans only have a very scant sense of this nowadays, although some will experience it from time to time when feeling very relaxed or temporarily at one with nature. For us, we feel it strongly all the time, even when we're asleep. Among the Wichagong that I know, it is recognised that my sense of the Zonga is stronger than most. It is the Zonga that required me to be captured today. On saying this, Zeepa's bright blue eyes looked directly into Tom's. I don't understand, said Tom. This morning, said Zeepa, when I awoke just before the sun rose, I knew something especially important was going to happen. I felt compelled to go to the rabbit warren at the old castle. I did not know why. I just had to go there. The Zonga was guiding me. The rabbits know me, so they don't mind me visiting their home. I've been there on several occasions before, sheltering from the rain or the snow. So this morning I entered their burrows and checked that everything was all okay. The rabbits all seemed at ease. So I could not understand why I had to be there. Then, later in the day, I heard you and the other two arriving, and I heard their terrible plan to catch the rabbits. I also heard that you did not want to do what they were asking, and I saw that you had left an escape hole for the rabbits. It was not your fault that this was discovered and blocked up again. When they lit the fire and the smoke started coming into the burrows, the rabbits panicked. So I led them to the entrance further away from where the people were. It was easy for me to throw the boulders out of the hole and let the rabbits escape. I thought at first that this was the reason the Zonga had compelled me to come to the warren today. So at first I thought my job was done. When the strongest feeling the Zonga I ever felt in me told me I must run now along the warren and enter the cage. So that is what I did. Tom was excited and fascinated to hear the story. So it was you that pushed the boulders away and let the rabbits escape. Tom said with a smile, we wondered how that happened. We didn't think the rabbits could have managed to do it on their own. But why did the Zonga compel you to be caught in the cage, Zeepa? Zeepa looked at Tom for what seemed like a long time. At first it said, I had no idea. I just knew I had to do it. I had never been so scared in my life, but I knew I had to do it. I knew I was going to be seen by humans. The first Wichagong ever. No wonder my fur, as you call it, was so bright red. Tom, I tell you, I was terrified. It was not until after I escaped that I realized why I had to be caught. Why? Asked Tom, almost in a whisper. The reason I entered the cage was because the Songa was compelling me to meet you, Tom, said Zeepa as he looked deeply into Tom's eyes. Then the Wichagong stood up and said, "You need to sleep now. Good night." And with that, he leapt through the window onto the outside sill, leapt once more onto the branches of a tree, and disappeared into the darkness. Thank you for listening.